What comes to your mind when you hear the word renewed? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael DeVernay. I am your moderator for this evening's program. We want to thank you for tuning in. I'm looking at we have we got a good amount of people on right now, and we definitely want to say welcome to everyone. During the program, feel free to use our chat feature because we would like to know exactly where you guys are from. So we're gonna do a quick roll call to see where everybody's from. So if you could just type it in wherever chat, if you're on Facebook, on YouTube, type in. I want to see where you guys are at. We want to definitely look at and just say hello to everyone from depending on where they're at. So feel free to type in the chat where you're from. We have a great program this evening where we're going to discuss the church, but it's going to be from the viewpoints of our musicians. We have some talented musicians that we have on this panel that we'll be bringing soon. And we're just going to have a great time. So we have individuals from New Jersey. Shout out to those in New Jersey. We have in New York. All right, we have some more New Jersey folks. So we want to welcome each and every one of you guys. So we have we have a lot of New Jersey people. So looking at the chat, there's a lot of New Jersey folks. So again, we want to thank you guys. So we're gonna bring our guests on. So first we're gonna start with our brother from Georgia. Musician, singer, songwriter. We're gonna welcome our brother Livni St. Luke to the stage.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey, Livni, how are you? How's everything going?
It's doing good. It's been a minute since I've actually heard those titles associated with me. I'm just a regular old dude.
They always hear. We have. I have the saying where it says, if you don't want to be associated with any titles, just relate to serviteur. Serviteur. All right. Welcome to the Renewed Ministries discussion. Up next, we have one of our up and coming musicians. He's doing some great things out in Texas, all the way from Texas. So we're gonna welcome GV Pluvios to the stage.
What's going on, everybody? Doing well, brother. Thanks for inviting me. What's going on with me?
Same here, brother. Same here.
All right. And last but not least, we have another talented musician. This guy, again, as me being part of the Haitian Federation from the Allegheny East, but he was my assistant music coordinator. And when I tell you, he made my job so easy, in getting the musicians together, making sure everyone was in their assigned space, making sure that everyone, they came to the retreat. If we have an event, I'm like, hey, I need some musicians. And, he's here with us, going to join this discussion. So let's welcome Daniel Noel to the stage.
Hello.
Dan,
what's going on?
How's it going?
What's up, people?
What's good, Daniel?
What's going on?
All right. So we just want to first thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know a lot of you guys just came from church, manger on one, but y'all jumped on this call. Y'all jumped on this call on the stream so that way we could have this discussion. And before we start, we're just gonna bow our heads for a quick word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, we just want to say thank you for allowing us to come on this platform to discuss your church, Lord. We ask that everything that we say be pleasing to you. Bless each and every guest speaker that will, whatever they have to say, Lord, continue to watch over them, be with them. Bless this program, Lord. Forgive us all our sins. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
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 All right, so I gave a quick introduction to about every one of you, but let's go around around the table just to you guys give your own introduction, stuff that I didn't mention. Maybe you could mention it. So we're gonna start. We're gonna go clockwise, right? So we're gonna start with Whitney. If you can introduce yourselves, what do you do? What do you play? What do you what part? What part do you play in the church, in your church?
Okay. Yeah. So, hi, I'm Reevney. I'm located in ATL, Georgia, right now. The current role that I play in the church is the assistant music director. I'm a with another assistant music director, and then I have somebody above me.
Right.
The instruments I play, I sing, I play the piano, I dabble on the bass, I dabble on the drums, even though Daniel probably may not say I dabble. But I do some songwriting as well, like you mentioned before, and I kind of consult on producing and stuff like that. So all in all, I'm all about God's business when it comes to music. So that's all you really need to know about me.
All right, all right. Next we have Brother Daniel.
Hey everybody, I'm Daniel Noel. What do I do now in the ministry?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird because I moved about a year some change ago.
Mm-hmm.
So am I in one church? So I don't quite know because again, my membership is still up in New Jersey. So I don't. I don't have. I can't have a definite post, as you guys know. So like today, I played in a new church I'd never heard about. I found out about them about a few weeks ago. Pastor hit me up. I showed up and I played. Usually, I play at EB where Reeve goes. Also, that's where I play most of the time. Besides that, I play drums and I have experience. That's it.
All right. Well, welcome. But last but not least, we have GV Previews. If you could tell us a little about the people about yourself.
What's going on, people? Man, great job with Renewed Ministry, Michael. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. I'm out in Texas, the DFW area. Man, I usually say that I used to play the piano. I guess I still do. But right now, I'm mostly doing production and I run AV for my church as well. So that's where I'm serving right now.
And what's your pastor's name?
Pastor Shelo Pierre.
Wow, Shelo Pierre. So we have a lot of these guys. These guys, their churches, man, they got some powerful speakers. I think in the EB we have Pastor Nathaniel Garcia. Right, so you guys are powerhouses, man. I bet y'all be busy because y'all average 2,000, 3,000 views on Saturday, man. That about no TV missing, that about no TVs. But we wanna definitely thank you guys for coming on this and this discussion. All right, so we're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna get right to our first question. Right, the first question states, what role, in your opinion, what role does a music ministry play in the church and how important it is? That's the first question. So I don't know anybody. You don't have to enter in order. Whoever would like to start the discussion, feel free.
I'll let the more experienced guys go first.
I know.
So I need to learn too. So
all right, I'll go first. Why not?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Look, I think the music ministry plays a very integral role in the church of today. I believe that outside of the sermon, which is probably the bread of what it is that we do on a weekly basis, music coupled with the bread. I say if there's bread, then music is probably the akasam, or the
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
or or the Kool-Aid for that matter. But all in all, it's really a very it's a very relied upon method for the worship. I think it's the tone setter. It's also the place where moods go to benchmark or go to rest. It's the answer to a prayer. It's also the setting of the mood for the setting up of the mood for the sermon, and then it also has the ability to keep you give you that last bit of touch before you actually have to go and go about your week as well. So I think music is a very, very important part of the church.
Mhm.
And I think today's discussion will definitely touch on some of the different reasons as to why that is. So
Right.
Uh, I'll
So.
I'll say I'll agree with him 100%, but I'm gonna try to look at it from a different angle. He
Mhm.
said the sermon, the bread of God, and then you got music. Too many, I will say, teenager.
hmm,
We break it down 21 and lower. It's actually quite the other way around. The music is actually the the foundation, and then the
Mhm.
word comes after. Which is it wrong? Maybe not. But at the same time, the music has the word in it,
Mm.
so that might be two birds with one stone. But it is definitely important, and I believe that in the past 2 years, especially, and I know we're going to talk more about it. We've seen music go to another level. We've
Mhm.
seen the importance of music. We've seen how music made or broke churches also.
Mm.
So that's my intake.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Man, let me see. What can I say? You know what? I'm gonna approach music more from the standpoint of praise and worship, because to me that's the only part of the service where everyone actually participates.
Mm.
Because preaching, right? You have a preacher and you have everybody else listening, right? When you have music, that's where you have everybody participating. And I always refer back to this French saying. I don't know who the author is, but I usually heard growing up that chanter c'est prier deux fois. So, right?
Mhm.
So, that tells you all you need to know about the importance, of music, in within a church service.
Mm. Mm. Wow, you guys are starting off hot. That's good. Hearing what to hear from different standpoint, and a lot of times, do we really? Because I feel as though sometimes where I guess not everyone, but a lot of people feel as though that you know they don't want the music to trump the the sermon or the message. But then you look at it, you're like, oftentimes the music is prepared better than the sermon. And when I say that, I don't mean,
Wow.
because you think about it, right? The music, sometimes, you go through, and again, you guys have experience and you guys understand where you have praise team rehearsals, and you do all this go with the musicians, you go over and over and again to make sure that it's right. And sometimes, you go ahead, you deliver, and it's like the sermon, you can tell. Let me just say it like that. Si on moun pa prepare ou prêcher ou ka wè ça. Okay, you can see that, but a lot of people, they have an issue with, they're saying that, it's I'm serious. I'm sorry, I don't mean make y'all laugh, but I'm serious. But a lot of people, they do not like the fact that oftentimes the music trumps the sermon. And again, the way that you guys put it, like you said, David said, chanter c'est prier deux fois. A lot of times you can get a full message from just listening to a song. Like I know
absolutely.
numerous times I've been, going through different things, and you hear this song and it's like, the song literally says everything that you're feeling, but also
Mm.
gives you reassurance that, there's a God that is present, that either won't let you go, or, it says everything that you wanted to say. And oftentimes you'll find how you feel in a song. Right. So I guess for me, I guess we could say that, both are important, because also you can find a sermon that actually speaks to you as well. So it all depends. I think both do the same job, and they are actually the same level. But we'll discuss more as we continue with our this program. All right. So that goes into, I guess, our second question. Second question says, do you feel that the church provide enough resources to equip the music ministry? So anybody could go.
I mean,
I
that's an
vote. I
easy
vote
no.
GV. I vote GV. GV, you go first.
Let's be honest. And I'm not taking shots at anyone, by the way.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
big no. Let's be honest. If there's
Hmm.
anything, I think COVID really exposed where we are as the body of Christ. Like, how prepared were we really? And so, no, I think that's a big no. Um, of course, that's not always the case for most well, I guess that's not always the case for my church, maybe
Hmm.
Rivney's and Daniel's church, but no, we when you go across, I guess, the states or Haiti or wherever, you'll find that, yeah, the musicians are not provided with what they need in order to do the work, which is so important.
All right. All right. Daniel.
Um, repeat the question so I can word my answer differently.
Okay. All right. So the question is, do you feel that the church provides enough resources to equip the music ministry?
Um, no. And most of the time when we hear resource, we're talking about instruments, we're talking about, money. But
Mm.
um, time is a huge resource.
Mm.
Mm.
Is the church spending time to show love? Is the church spending time to nourish the musician? That's a resource.
Mm.
And we see that many times that most of the churches, the musicians are males, and it's very hard to keep a man in church right now, as you can see, especially around our age and lower. So if the church, the resource of time, if they spent that resource towards us, the musicians, the results might have been a bit different. So the answer
Okay.
is no, they don't. They
They
don't.
don't. Okay. And I guess we're gonna have to wait to hear Rivney's take on it. And I feel as though, okay, Rivney is back. So Rivney, I don't know if you heard the question.
I
Um,
did. I did. I did. And my answer to
Uh-oh.
that question, Michael, honestly and truly,
Uh-oh.
uh, I'm not afraid to go down certain avenues. The answer is yes and no. It really is about the length and the distance by which the vision of the home church really wants.
mhm.
If the
Mm.
home church wants to remain classical and they only provide an organ and a piano and a mic for just the singers, then they've essentially provided the necessary resources for their music ministry to go forward. However,
Mhm.
there are times when the evolution occurs,
Mhm.
and they're not keeping up with providing the resources as their tastes, their palettes become a little bit different than that original piano and organ thing. So as we start to evolve, that's when we start to lose the go from yes and start moving into no. That's pretty much my answer in regards to that. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, again, I guess I could see it all across the board that we have a no, that we don't have enough resources that's provided for our thing, and I guess that could be a two-part question, where why isn't resources provided? Because when you look at it, right? I mean, we all attended at some point a Haitian church, and again, this is not, again, we're not here to bash churches and stuff like that, but just want to highlight some other things. A lot of times that you go in and you notice that they're willing to spend upwards of 15,000 to 20,000 on an A4, right? We spend 15, 20,000 on an A4 to get people to come to the church, et cetera, et cetera. Um, we do lavish things. I've seen some lavish things done doing IFA where people are getting iPads, people are getting Bibles,
Oh, do so.
But then, yeah,
I need to come to your church,
then,
bro. I need a new iPad, bro.
For real? Like,
Yeah,
That's
like the
listen,
visitor's iPad.
listen, the views and opinion that are stated here is strictly Michael Duvernay's. It's not, it has to do with no church, has to do with no pastor, and has to do with nothing. One every time year, monsieur, right? But we've realized where we've had you know money spent, so much money spent in doing IFA, but yet you look at the same church where they have especially the drums will tell you the story. And any church that I look at, if I look at a church and I see that one of the drums is up here, the other one's down here, the cymbals don't even have the little, I don't know, Daniel might know more, but the little cushion that they put it on and they lock it in, they just made it dans they been where it just made a symbol dans trou on connaît they va dépenser comme pour music, you know. And a lot of times they're looking for that quality, or it could be a thing where they settle. They feel as though because we have somebody that's played the piano, we'll just throw one of the young people on the drums, and they could beat their hearts till they could beat the drums till their heart's content. Oh, we've arrived. We've had this, and then you're looking at it, it's like, yo, it's not just that, you know, because I have instances where I went to minister at a church, and we get there. My musician's like, yo, I can't play on this drum set, or I can't play on this keyboard, because, you know, we're thinking about everything else, but the equipment that we have, and I think it goes far beyond equipment. I think one of the things that you mentioned, Daniel, you mentioned time is one resource, but I feel as though showing the musician love, respect, I think that's another form of resource, especially from the church members. And I had one of the guys that played at a church, and he said that, you know, he said one time, he said since he been to the church, he only could count on his fingers only like 2 or 3 people besides the young people that actually came to him and said hello, right? So I feel as though by you showing somebody love, that's also a resource that could help them to actually stay more longer in the church, or that going to help them embrace them, because, you know, a lot of times, especially now, a lot of us, we have a set musician, but sometimes we have musicians that we have to get from somewhere else, because, you know, one of our main musicians is going to be absent, and they're not from the either Seventh-day Adventist faith, or they're not Haitian, you know. And I think one of the resources, we need to be able to show love to them when they come in, and not just, you know, just say it. Parce que chaque jour on peut citer, or nous aimons une l'autre, nous maison monde, but then our action doesn't really say what we quote unquote recite every Saturday. All right. So so I'm gonna go to the next question. It says, you know, that some believe. Oh, Daniel.
Before you go up back to that question though, do we have? Well, is our expectation too high as musicians? As in, I want a Yamaha motif. I don't want a Korg. I don't want a Casio. So now we're saying, oh, they're not spending the resource. They're not showing us love. I believe some of us expectation is a bit unrealistic also. And it ends up shooting us on the foot, because again, we're up here, we want this, but the church can only provide this, even though this is good enough. But because they're not meeting us here, we bash the church, or we're saying, oh, they're not showing us love. I think that's something else we do need to think about.
I mean, I think.
Can I add something to that?
Okay.
In 2022, a church service is a major form of production. Like major form of production. So when I talk to, you know, different churches, what I always tell them, if you don't have the budget to do it right, scale it down to a really nice and warm réunion de prière. It's nothing wrong with that, because trust me, like, and we all use tech. You guys are musicians. You guys understand when you use the wrong tech, it does so much worse that you would be better off just throwing everything out of the room. You guys just get in a big circle and have a nice, you know, prayer and, you know, sermon and whatever. That would serve way better than having this small little, you know, analog mixer. The piano is out of tune, because you can be classical all you want, you still have to use the right tools. And so to me, if a church doesn't have the budget to get up there, throw all of that stuff out and do it right. That's what it comes down to, because otherwise you have to be able to spend money in the right tools. Otherwise, it's just becomes a problem, you know. So
Mm.
that's I'm coming from an AV standpoint, so I'm
Okay,
a
okay.
little peachy there, you know.
But you know what, the funny thing when you just say with AV, media and music works hand to hand right now,
Yeah, yeah,
especially right now, because the
yeah.
thing, especially with us going through the streaming route, we're no longer doing just a in-person service. We literally taking our church and putting it so the world can see. And
Yeah.
if those things are not on one accord, the music ministry and the media and just the whole church itself. And again, you
Yeah.
use the word here that I think a lot of people would shun you for it by using the thing saying that the church has become a production, but not realizing that when you say production, you're just talking about the order of things. You're just
Yeah.
talking about the order of how things supposed to go. And to this day, we have individuals that still don't know the order of the church, to the point where they go on stage and they're looking at left and right like, oh, what's next? We know what's next. It's
Yep.
bienvenue.
Yep.
Say your bienvenue and move
Yep.
forward.
That's
So
it.
it's kind of like you need somebody to kind of like
A
guide
stage
them.
manager.
A stage man, and that's again that goes back. That's another resource. That's
Yep.
another resource that you need somebody that knows. But the thing is, a lot of times our churches, they feel as though depuis nous mettons une sorte de and I'm gonna say it in Creole. If you put some type of professionalism towards something, oh, nous besoin de le monde. But
Nah.
for me to put something out that is of great quality, and for us to be able to say, hey, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, and make sure that it has some type of order, because I do it like that, oh, nous besoin de le monde.
It's
I mean,
entertaining.
yeah, it's entertainment. Really?
Yeah.
It's funny. I think this question has definitely a lot of avenues, and I'm glad that GV is bringing a perspective from AV. I think one of the things we need to definitely be clear on doing is defining what a resource is. I think we tend to. I mean, I think the general benchmark is money, but I feel like there are churches that have the money, spend the money, but then the money gets spent and the stuff still doesn't translate or produce in a fashion that is to the expectation of the industry. And so I think understanding that resources isn't just synonymous with money. It's also synonymous with personnel. It's also synonymous with culture and vision and stuff like that too. So, I think when we say that the church isn't providing a resource, I think and for those of you that are listening, I think it's important to say, hey, it's not just about the equipment. It's not just about the musicians, but it's also the supporting factors as well, as far as what is the culture, the order, like GV said, the production as well. And I think it's important to say that with the pandemic, and I think we're going to get to this question sometime in the near future. So I'm not going to bang the drum too hard too soon. But I think the pandemic has definitely lifted up a veil of, and exposed us for what it is that we were doing and what it is that we want now. And I think now with the opportunities that the pandemic has presented, I think now, like Daniel said, the expectations have come up high, not just on the musician side, but also on the side of the whole church and what it is that they're looking for. And then, so I think it's important that resources don't just mean money. It's about, okay, cool, if we're going to move into the route of streaming, then hey, that means service commencer à laisser les finir à laisser n'a laisser et puis faut ça fin parler là et puis fini. And another thing is, when I say personnel, c'est pas tout le monde nous mette devant caméra kounya, depuis la caméra pas là, n'importe monde can monter sous chair, you think I have any kind of discourse and stuff like that. But now we've moved into a new realm. Now if streaming is number one way to go, then now we're going to have to make decisions as far as quality. How is it that you move towards quality? And that's just another avenue to pay attention to as it pertains to resources. So,
okay, all right. Well, I've heard you guys have provided your input on resources, and I think it's a great understanding. So now we're going to go to our next question. It says, some believe that musicians take the music ministry more seriously than other components of the worship service. For example, they play and leave and come back after the sermon. What are your thoughts on that?
It's true. It's true. I hate it. It happened today. I hate it. It does. We play and we go in the back somewhere. But there's churches where the musicians have to do that. Yes, most people probably won't understand this, but a lot of churches, the musicians finish playing, they go to the post production room and watch what they just played, so that for the closing song, they know exactly what to do differently for it to sound better. So the musicians don't have the time to sit in church and actually, take the word. They actually have more duties to do with music. So they have to go to the room, listen to what just happened, tweak a little bit this and that, so that the ending or the rest of the service can flow better. But yeah, most musicians, I will say, do think that the music is stronger or more important than everything else. But it's a bad thing.
But what? Well, before I'm gonna ask, I guess the second part is why would they think that? Why would they think that that the music industry is more serious than other components? Is it because that's what they only involved in, or what? I don't know if you guys can elaborate a little bit more, or
It's
anybody else
fun.
will take that question.
It's funny. I'm sorry, you were gonna say something, Daniel.
No, 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 no.
It's funny because I don't know if I've found myself in quite a bit of scenarios as a musician and doing. Some days I walk in and I sit down after I've done my part and listen to the sermon, and then some days I go out to the side and I go try to, like Daniel said, see if there's any way that we can smooth the edges of what's been transpiring throughout the day. I think there are different ways to kind of look at it. Now, if the action of leaving the service to go perfect the craft is what's happening, then yeah, I think we've held our end, what it is that we're responsible for, up to a higher standard than what it is that than other parts of the service. But in all fairness, I think goes with the value of the resource that is time, Daniel. Like, let's say for instance, there are certain churches you walk in, depuis nive ka, ushita son instrument, and upalive until the sermon, like, and then at this point, you was sitting, depending on what church you are, you've been sitting for 2 hours, and it's like, all right, cool. As much as you would like to listen to the sermon, I have to go use the restroom, I have to go mentally recoup this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth. So I think there are different ways to really look about it. I don't think every musician leaves the service thinking that this is the most important thing. I think it's just, hey, this is the one time I got to breathe, I think, more or less. And if I'm gonna perfect my craft, I'm gonna take this time to do that. If I'm gonna go in the car, I got a text message that I couldn't respond to in the middle of the service. Let me go and take care of that. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that getting up during the sermon part. But yeah, I think that's the question, right? Unless I elaborated too
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Bro, you really just said everything I was gonna say. At least from personal experience, I mean, to me, the sermon is really the only downtime you have as a musician to do everything else. Using the restroom, getting some water. And it really comes down to the church settings, because when you on stage, you on, whether you playing or not. And so, especially if you're playing with a band, for me, I'd rather my musician get off stage and go discuss whatever you need to discuss outside or somewhere else, not on stage, right? And so I've definitely found myself in services where I get on there and I stay on the entire time. But there are certain venues or certain circumstances where it just makes sense. Like, okay, this is the time for you to go refresh and get ready for the rest of it. So I'll get off and come back a little bit later on, right? So it really just depends. And obviously, if someone is using that time to just really like get away from the church and don't even care about the sermon, obviously that's wrong. But I think it's really a time for musicians to really just take care of other things, because that's the only downtime. The same way, like when we playing, the preacher, that's their time to show up some things and get ready for their part of the service, right? And I don't think they downplay the music, but that's the time that they have to to get ready for their part. So I think that's how I look at it when it comes to musicians get it off stage during the sermons. It's most likely to do other things that they need to do, pretty much.
So would you say that I understand where you guys are coming from, but is there a particular a lot of time that you think that they should do and then be back to the church? Because I've seen some instances where, the guest speaker comes, he's about to preach, and then before he starts, he want to sing a song, and then he look left or right, and no one's there on the keyboard, so somebody has to run outside, get the musicians. So do you think that we should have a set time allotted? Where we're like,
Well,
okay, or is this part of going back to resource of planning what's happening, so that way
remember
it doesn't happen like that?
right there, bro. You just said it, because that's why we mentioned production. Because one thing that's important in production is communication.
Mm,
Right?
right.
So I've been in situation where the preacher requires me to play background music the entire message.
Mm,
No, seriously. Yeah. So I know beforehand, you better get ready for like 3 hours straight. Because once you start, you don't stop until like the service technically ends, right? And so communications, right? And so that's what it comes down to when we talk about production. That's what it requires, that we all are in one accord, knowing that, hey, if I have a song, I better let them know, because I have to be conscious of their time and what they have to do as well. So yeah, that's what I would say there.
Man, Daniel, you was about to say something. You
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that things change as you get older.
Mm,
I have a family now.
mm,
I play, and I make sure that I sit next to my wife and my daughter during the sermon. Why? Because we
Amen.
have so many examples in the Bible where the pastor kids, sorry, are the worst kids, because, and the ministers also, because they do their thing and they leave. That bonds, and I believe Michael threw a seminar with you brought somebody in, and the person was saying that musicians and ministers, their rate of divorce is, well, 1 out of 3, if I'm not mistaken, in the church.
Mhm.
And one of the
It was
biggest
pretty high. It was pretty high.
one of the biggest reasons is because we play and then we leave. We don't spend time sitting next to our wife and educating our kids, because we spend the entire time, we'll pray, we'll play, and then we'll go to the bathroom, or we'll disappear, or we'll go to post-production, and then service, you go back up there, you close out service, and then you go back home, and you can't really say, I went to church with my family. Yes, you drove to church with your family, but did you really have church with your family? Well,
Yeah.
not really.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that comes down to resources too, Daniel, don't you think? Because if you're carrying all the loads, then you have to be like, I gotta play, then I have to go check in the back and make sure everything is tight. Whereas if like, hey, man, my role in this entire production is to play the keys or play the drum, play the bass. You're done with that part. You trust that the rest of the team now can carry the load, where you don't have to be in 10 different places at once. So I think that's also another piece of resources that allows us now to be able to fellowship and be able to have church with your family, like you point out. So I like that.
Yeah, you're right. And it shouldn't take us, musicians, after playing, it doesn't take us an hour to use the bathroom and to look through posts or whatever. It
So
really,
corny.
no, we in the back chilling, talking about whatever it is.
Yeah, that's that too. I'm not gonna lie. That's that too.
I played in a church. Let me tell you, this was embarrassing, right? Actually, no, I was just a member. I'm in the church, right? The musicians killed it. Whatever. It's raining outside, right? Pastor finished preaching. The musicians come back on, but they are wet. And I'm like, what? Coming to find out, they were outside playing ball in the rain.
Okay, that's.
I'm like,
I mean, we can clearly say that's unacceptable, right? So.
they were playing ball in the rain. I'm like,
Wow.
come on.
Yeah.
Well, should we have a time frame? I mean, you don't want to restrict people, but at the same time, it doesn't take an hour. Come on. It really
Yeah, I mean, personally, with me, I believe that again, if you've been, if the majority of service you've been sitting on the keyboard or the drums, I think you are allotted, a few minutes to go ahead and if you have to use the restroom, if you check on your family, or even sit with your family, I think that's fair. But being gone for the whole service, and then especially when service is done and there's that dead space, and it's like, Where's everybody? you know, and it looks weird. It looks weird, and I hope that some of our musicians, those that are listening, they take heed to that. At least try your best to come back into church and just to sit through the sermon. I know sometimes it's tough, but definitely sit through the sermon.
Here's one thing. I know we got to move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, a lot of churches hire musicians.
Hmm.
Should we add that to the contract that you need to sit in the sanctuary during the sermon? Because as the employer, you can write whatever you want on the contract. If you don't like it, don't sign, and we will find another musician. But we can if we want.
Well,
What pet musician sous contrat ça?
Somebody's going to sign. Somebody else is going to sign a
so
contract.
Daniel, you get into my favorite point, because to me, the whole issue with church and musicians is that we gotta start at the root, which is we need to invest in resources. So the same way, our pastors are trained, right? They go to school, they are qualified people that can come in and speak. We need to start investing in some of those young people now, so that they are Christians first, musicians second, but still be able to play well and do the job really well. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go out there and hire people in order to get quality musicians. So the way we can bypass that whole issue is start investing early. Hey, I see little Jimmy looking at the drums. Can we get together and be able to finance, drums lessons for little Jimmy? Because 10 years, 15 years later, little Jimmy is gonna be able to serve in that capacity. So that's
That's
just food for thought there. We could, but it gets tricky, when you hire other people now. The dress code get a little, the behavior. It's all an issue there. So,
evening.
I'm gonna tell you what it is. I agree. I agree to a certain extent with everybody. In all fairness, I'm 35 years old. I had the luxury of playing keys, starting at Salem at the age of 14. S Block, shout out. And since then, I've had to deal with quite a few dynamics. And you make a very good point, GV. Before I touched the keys, I had to know that depuis how do you say it? Depuis que l'on va commencer, c'est Shita, and attend the whole thing. And then when I became a participant of the actual, the parts where I wasn't participating, I still had to go and be a spectator and so on and so forth. I do think that a lot of the walking out does come with, hey, am I really enjoying the experience that I'm going through right now too? I think that's really what it boils down to. If in fact you are hiring someone to play keys, then playing keys is exactly what you hired them to do. And at which point, hey, I'm just a person offering a service. Once it's break time, it's break time. I gotta go take my break. When you need me, I'll be there as soon as I hear that keyword. Give me the keyword, and I'll show up. And that's really what musicianship has kind of transformed into right now. Not a lot of people are blessed with what you're saying. The progressive, investing and reinvesting in musicians. And now you hear that music is getting taken out of schools, and so the interest is dying on a public level, and this, that, and the third. So you find yourself in a situation where more and more you're looking at, hey, I gotta go find somebody who's actually investing in themselves. But if they're investing in themselves and not investing in Christ, then who am I to tell them on the break time sit on these keys? It's this whole supply and demand type thing, So I don't know. I'm conflicted when it comes to that, Mike. I am.
Well, you know what? And again, you guys all make valid points. And one thing that you guys tend to forget or forgot in regards to like when you start bringing in contracts and stuff, writing contracts, you got to remember any place that you go to let's say you go rent a venue, you go rent a car, you go rent anything, a tuxedo. What's the biggest thing that's what's part of the contract?
Deposit.
No, not what else?
Liability.
What else?
See how too.
Oh,
A time to
before
bring it
time.
back. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Oh, okay, got it.
you
Got
go,
it.
you start going into, and again, that's why it always goes back to when, GV said production. I think a lot of times, and that's another thing that we need to struggle with. Um, our church struggle with time.
That's exactly it. You
They
talking, you
start
talking.
they start oftentimes they start the cute late, and then they always say, I still remember this gentleman at my church used to always say, si nous dit qu'il t'a comme ça à 11h, qu'on est que zanj yo là déjà à 11h, y a tant pour qu'il t'a commencé. Depuis nous va commencer à 11h pile, zanj yo quitter ça là. Bon Dieu pas béni qu'il là. That's what they used to say to me. And again, I realized it was, that was our own little creation. but that oftentimes, a lot of times is you going back to it. It's, we don't know when to end. We could write all the contracts we want, but at the end of the day, you in that contract, you're gonna have to put what is the ending time. What does church is church from 9:30 till leolage or 9:30 to 1 to the 1:30. All that stuff got to be put into it. But again, and you also mentioned something about the younger musicians, which lead us to our next question. It says, what is the most effective way to expand the music ministry and involve the younger generation? So I don't know anyone want to take that.
Whew.
What is the most effective way to expand the music ministry and involve the younger generation?
Man.
Well, before that
Okay.
question, let me
Go ahead.
just put like a part A of the question. The first question should be, do you think the younger generations are interested in being part of the music ministries?
I think so. We're the cool kids in church. We are. At the retreat, the musicians are the cool crew. Everybody wants to hang out with, with the musicians. Growing up, I wanted to hang out with the musicians. So I guess just that alone. Plus, back to there isn't many males in the church.
Mm.
Where else would we fit? Like young men, like they'll look at all the departments and say, the
Like,
music
you can't
department
be
is
in
the
here.
only department I
Bye.
can see me fitting into. In terms of giving back, I would say, free music lessons. I don't know, man.
Evening?
I think there's always an initial interest to be a part of the church. I think it doesn't even go boil down to just the youth. But I mean, since the question is all about the youth, I think yeah. I think there is an initial interest, but I think they run into obstacles that that discourages them from wanting to go in that direction anymore. And I've run into quite a bit of obstacles. First, it was, hey, I want to play the drums. Can we play drums? Um, now it's the type of hair you got on and stuff like that, and the type of clothing you're gonna wear, and so on and so forth. So I think there's always an initial interest, and I think that initial interest comes with the form of creativity as well. I think that the young youth wants to pour into their church, and I think this is where us as a church we fail ourselves, or we shoot ourselves in the foot, simply because we take someone that could have very well have we could have nurtured their creativity, give them the path to kind of walk and challenge them to do stuff, and we just completely and utterly shoot them down, and without love, and so on and so forth. So yeah, do the young people ever? I think yeah, there's a sense of loyalty that always comes with going to church, especially if you're going on a weekly basis. You're seeing all your friends, and they singing sometimes, and sometimes they not singing, and on Lac clear fell on mauvais son. You're like, oh no, that can't happen in my church. I know how to fix that. But then you start to make their interest about other things, and at which point you lose them. You lose them completely. So I really don't think, and sometimes it's not the musical restrictions that does it, and I've named a couple of them right now. So it's a difficult topic to reach on, but I really do think that the youth, especially if they're coming on a weekly basis, they do show interest in their church.
Okay. GV?
Oh, absolutely, bro. I really do think that they are interested. To me, it's the way we handle the youth altogether. Because for me, the way it started is that I was trusted to run a church service as at what 12 years old.
Wow.
I was like, you get on the keys, you play, and with that sense, with that responsibility, like I had to know that hey, I can't hang out with you guys anymore because like I have to go to the big church, right, and play. That's important, right? And so I gotta make sure I dress well and I'm prepared for that task. So I think the way we handle the youth right now is that we are like baby feeding them, but we need to actually trust them with like responsibility. Like, hey, we're gonna trust you to be able to come in and serve at that position. That's gonna allow them to grow. Of course, they're gonna make mistakes, but that's gonna allow them to grow and really learn the craft and be able to serve, well in their 30s, their 40s, their 60s. But that start out in the 10, 15 years old.
Okay, so definitely. Daniel, I'm sorry, you was saying.
Many of us need to move out the way too.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sometimes it's something that simple. Just us moving out the way.
I hope my church is watching. I'm gonna retire in 3 years, guys. 3 more years.
Wait.
Yep. Oh. Pa vinti mo ye go you know.
Man, we do ministries.
But you know what? It's I mean that's wow. That's
He's right though. I mean, we all know that one ancien, that one Zia, that one maestro that's been there like since you were a little kid and still at that simple. And it's like, is there not anybody else at the church that could try this for a year? Like a different voice, a different style, something, Daniel's right. We gotta get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with us getting out the way, again, I think every time that you guys say something, I feel as though it leads to the next question, right? Which is how has, because the pandemic, a lot of things have changed, but how has the pandemic affected the music ministry in a positive way or a negative way?
Yeah.
Man, can I go on that one?
Go ahead.
Be honest with you guys. It helped me in a great way. I've grown as a so much because I tell you what, it's a funny story. My church is a little desert. We play a little bit of compa, and so before the pandemic, I come in, I do what I need to do when it's like I'm in the back there helping the guys, or I'm somewhere. But as soon as COVID happened and I realized, we're about to go live, I can go up there and just play however. That's what led to me just like really going into like pre-production, production, post-production. Like, so I had to really pay attention and prepare a whole lot than I used to. Because I'll be honest, before I used to mail it in a lot. Once COVID happened and I realized, this stuff is gonna go live. Other people are gonna see this. My other musician friends are gonna see this. I called the person. I'm like, we can't go up there the way we used to. We gotta, polish this up a little bit. So in that area, it really helped me to, pay attention a little bit more and really, I guess, do a better job, at the music.
All right.
To me, it really boils down to how much resources you had going into the pandemic, and then how the pandemic has affected you. I think the answer is going to be definitely mixed. I think for me, I think the pandemic opened. I said it earlier. I think it exposed a lot of weaknesses for at least for what I'm going through right now, and I think that the pandemic has also created a sense of competition as well that I don't believe. I mean, in some cases it's healthy, and in some ways it's not. But I mean, I think we've lost and I shouldn't say weave, I don't want to include everybody into the thing, but I think that you can experience a loss of essence of what it really means to actually do praise and worship because now you got cameras, and I think some people, we focus on the wrong things when the cameras turn on and so on and so forth. And as such, other things get, exposed and get into the limelight. But for me, I think it was definitely, it's a mixed answer for me. I think, yes, the pandemic has made things a little bit better as it pertains to, I think, everybody now. Kunya yo kone ba yo pat réellement bon. J'en thinking on avant. And it's like, all right, Kunya, everybody's aware that there needs to be a change, Now we're crossing into the whole, what's that change supposed to be? And I think with those questions, you find a lot of challenges. For instance, I'm going to use an example. I'm a singer. I'm a praise and worship leader as my primary role most of the Saturdays throughout the pandemic. And I think where it is we found a loss was, hey, song rotations, they started to get very expensive and very big, and to the point where you're losing participation because now you got a new song every Saturday, and that's probably the last time you're going to hear that song for another 8, maybe 9 months, at which point, hey, the people in the crowd, are they really connecting? Are they really doing this? And so I think the pandemic helped bring new songs. Hey, we need new songs. But I think there's a whole management of it all that we're kind of trying to figure our ways through and stuff like that. So yeah, but the pandemic has also brought the availability of musicians. If you got a church that got that 3,000 plus views, then all of a sudden you got musicians that are available and are able to like, hey, you know what? It's okay. I'll volunteer every now and again, this, that, and the third. You know what? And then you have the whole you're full of resources, and now you got to navigate how do you rotate that and so on and so forth. So it's been a kind of one of these for me and navigating through that. So
Daniel,
I would say there's a pro and cons to it. It did expose a lot of weaknesses. It definitely did, and it raised the standard or the bar, if you would like to say. Right. I give this example not too long ago to a friend of mine. We'll drive 20 minutes into church. We sit in there. We're not feeling it. We'll sit in that church till the end. Nowadays, with a click, you into the next church. You don't like this one, next. You don't like this one, next. So our standard now is, what can we do to keep the people on our channel instead of going to CZI in Florida or going to whoever is where. So our standard definitely there is competition in there too, but our standard has definitely went up, which to me I think about time. One of the cons is also it left smaller churches that don't really have the resource. It really killed a lot of them, honestly. A lot of churches that were small local groups are now suffering bad because everyone's standard is up here, but you're giving this here, and people are not going back. They'd rather stay home and flip to the channels. And also tying this to the previous question, the pandemic made everybody wants to stream now. But now let's say I'm a drummer, so I'll say there's a drummer who plays at a 80%. Right? And there's a drummer who plays at a 75%. Because we're streaming nationally now, internationally, the kid who's playing 75%, which is the next generation, he gets no burn. Because we need this standard, we want this quality here to compete because this is our new standard. This kid right here gets no love, and all of us, we used to play Wednesday. We used to play for devotion because we wanted that exposure. We wanted experience. But now we're literally shutting down this kid who's literally just right underneath. We shutting him or her down like, you're not good enough. We just want the top people. We rather go hire someone who plays at a 90 than let you play at an 89. Because we need that 90. We need that 90 at all time. Which kind of, again, how are we going to push this towards, encourage the youth it's really kind of pushing them away, and to a certain extent, I love playing in local churches. I love playing in churches that have no cameras. I get a sense of, I don't want to say unorganized, but you play a little more raw. I play more raw in those churches. I can make mistakes and I'm still having a good time. While churches with a whole bunch of cameras is very structured. You got to be on the clear. You got to. It's then again, that's just me. That's just me.
Okay, I guess what it boils down to, the pandemic has affected the music ministry, which is a core part of any church, positively and negatively. And reason I say that is because when you think about it, right, the positive is that it forced everyone to get to a certain level, right? It forced everyone to be like, okay, hey, I need to get ourselves into find alternative ways to be able to reach our members. And streaming, I mean, before a lot of things that were being done was done on the phone line, but pandemic now offered them the option of, hey, now we have to stream because pa gen moun ki pal kebe telefon nan 3 etan, 4 etan nan zorey yo pou etan de servis la.
Yeah.
So you have to go because you have to go to the visual. So which forced a lot of churches, especially for us in our area, a lot of churches even before the pandemic didn't even have a camera in their church. But because the importance of, hey, I'm looking at this church and and they had to make a change because, like you said, it was affecting the membership. Now people discovered YouTube, discovered Facebook. What you mean to tell me I could sit at home, before you come back out over television, ou back over television le sabat, but now I'm able to ouvre TV now in n'importe l'église, m'vle aller, m'ka aller, to the point where some people found out that they could go and watch their church service from their home church in Haiti, and it's just like opening another can of worm. But again, that would be a positive, but also the negative is now a lot of people realize too that in music ministry is like, hey, pour qui ça besoin à l'église? Toute l'église a la même pour nous. N'importe service simple garder, c'est là. Regarder simple à Haïti, simple en Europe, Canada, qu'a fait pour nous. On va savoir là. And then with the ministry too, when it comes to the music ministry, we realize that a lot of people are, again, stepping up to the plate and doing much better. Now, praise teams want to sound better. Musicians want to practice more because they know that once it's on the stream, that's it. It's on the stream. Even you have something to say? That's all
Go ahead, GV hasn't spoken yet.
Great print, all of you guys. I think that will come to pass, honestly, because it's still. I know COVID's been there like 2 years plus now, but it's just same reason why your favorite artists, you can go on YouTube, you have all their records, but if they come into town, you go into the concert because you want that experience. And there is something about being out of church, having that experience. For me, like I've been to enough production where like I can't get that to the TV. I have to be in person. So I think everybody else will get there. It's just that right now it's the new thing. So we all just so addicted to our devices where it's like, but at some point, I think we're gonna get to a point where it's like, okay, this is no longer doing it for me. I need to be there to truly experience it. So at least that's my hope.
It's gonna stay that way. Honestly, I'm gonna piggyback on what you're saying, GV. I mean, there are the pandemic has exposed things, the need for engineers, professionals behind the board, because MGV, shout out to you.
Not me. That's not me.
The reason being is because sometimes if you're sitting at home, right, and then a praise and worship leader is going hand, you're like, wow, something beautiful is going on over there. Parce que sur télévision, moi, m'pattendais pour qui ça tout envoyé là, tout pour ça, parce que everything's coming in choppy, this, that, and the third. I'm not hearing the bass the way it's supposed to. The drum's not really kicking the way it's supposed to, this, that, and the third. But everybody's been having a blast. I'm like, you know what? Next time I'm going to church because honestly, I have my surround sound on, still not coming through. 4K sound is not coming through. So it's like whatever. I honestly think it's gonna remain that way. The live experience is always gonna be more desired than that of the screen, and it's just gonna be a moment in time before the views are gonna go down and the sanctuary is gonna fill right back up,
Yep.
because that's just what it is. Go ahead, Daniel.
But what sanctuary is going to fill back up? Many of us,
Mm.
not our local churches, is that popping church
Mm.
sanctuary is going to
You're
fill.
right.
Parce que l'église non sous Wi-Fi toujours, yo gen Wi-Fi.
And it's all tied up to what GV said also. Some churches shouldn't do it.
Mm.
You
Uh,
just do a
you-
little tableau horn or have
yep.
everyone sit around and you get a better experience that way. I'll tell you this. There's a church, Montclair. Huge respect to Montclair, SDA. Uh, the church is full. Music is great. The church of members like, let's go. We need to stream. We need to stream. The pastor said, we're not ready to stream yet. So
Yep.
music is great. Sermon is great. Church is packed. But yet he had the respect and the vision to see that it takes more than that to be ready to turn on this little thing right here.
Good.
But again, it goes again back to everyone shouldn't do it just because
Yep.
everything looks good. Nah,
Yep.
it's a lot more to it. A lot more to it.
But so can we get
Okay.
there though? Small churches get better at what you guys do that's different from the mega or the bigger churches. Because we all been there where you going through something where I don't want to hear the drums, I don't want to hear the keys. I just want straight three-part harmonies of just like some old school hymnals. Get really good at this because that's a different flavor. And let's be
Mhm.
honest, we all have our flavors. My parents probably would appreciate that better than having Rivney singing and Daniel going off, Michael singing, like that's my vibe. But maybe my parents would appreciate like straight hymnals and they'll just clean that up. I think there's still value for the small churches. They just still have to be organized and still be presented in a manner that is professional.
That's crazy. I'm gonna one more thing, and I'll stop talking, uh, Mike.
This is good. This is
Last,
good, man.
this is I want to go back to the previous question because I know you part ate it, but I'm like I was looking at it again, and I was like, what is the most effective way to expand the music ministry and involve the younger generation? I mean, it just goes back to piggyback into what GV and Daniel have been kind of kind of foreshadowing on is that while these flavors do exist, and the smaller churches get good at this and that and the third, I think that it becomes beneficial to us as a community if we started flavoring things, intentionally flavoring things for the various audiences. Granted, small churches probably wouldn't be able to do it on an expensive rate like some of the bigger churches can. But I mean, young people, like, especially Daniel, that example you used where the 75% a musician is just not going to get that much shine on the main service when it comes to the 80 or plus, simply because guess that the mistakes you just can't make on the camera and stuff like that. Well then, hey, all the more reason why a youth segment is necessary where those bigger musicians sit down and they become mentors and actually have the young musicians take the platform and move forward, and do that, so I think it doesn't become about the Saturday morning service anymore. It stops being about that. You start having things like that have been popping up throughout the pandemic as well. You got cooking teams, cooking clubs, giving 5 minute segments on how to cook quiche, and then you got young people doing Bible lessons, Bible studies together on a Friday on this portion of the channel. And so I think these things we just gotta be intentional. But with the pandemic and stuff like that, you still gotta pay attention. It's important to have production. And so, in all fairness, I know nous tous les le comité de l'église côté un bon ancien avec un bon directeur département chita ensemble. But in all fairness, this production phase really requires one person, and I know stage manager, what one person that really oversees the overall delivery of what the visions of every department happens in that one maybe 2 hour segment where it goes live. That's something where one person is a shot caller, and it's not even the pastor, it's not even the Purviancia. This is the person that has the best know-how and the best skill set to be able to deliver on something and quality, and also realize what your strengths are as a church. Just like you were saying before, GP, is the realization that, hey, maybe, yeah, as much as this church is doing this, maybe we just need to be best, do execute best at what it is we're comfortable doing, and we'll stay away from this area and just stick right here for now, because this is where our skill sets kind of make put
Makes
us as
sense.
our strengths. So yeah.
Very, very, very good point. Very good point. So now this is gonna be the fun question, right? This is gonna be the fun question. If you had the ability to modify the worship service at your local church from the lens of a musician, what change would you make?
Really, it's
So
itching.
we think guy first. Go ahead.
Man, honestly and truly, I think we don't see the value of being straightforward and short. You know, the thing about sitting in front of a screen is that your attention span is becomes
Mhm.
that small. And I think when you start to, if you start to keep to the traditions that were there before the pandemic, before the cameras, and try to translate that into, or try to transition them into this stage, you're going to definitely lose audience. You're going to lose the interest of people. Now you're talking about, hey, the potential for upping your intake on a remote scale, on a remote scale. And so if you want to draw loyalty at the screen level, then hey, you gotta know, like we said earlier, l'église commence à 11
Mhm.
service no fini à 1h30 or something like that. And then I feel like that's too long, by the way. In my humblest opinion, 1h10 et quart, 1h30, that's top. So 11 to 12:30 cut. And at which point, annonce, parfait. Kilot pa encore you mette dans mi-temps ba elle, dans mi-temps service là. I could list them, but I would just start.
Like,
Well, my church hasn't streamed like, but yeah, stuff like that. They just need to go or need to be a part of the announcement reel. You know,
Yeah.
where it's timed, where we know, hey, 5 minutes ça, c'est pour annoncer tout département yo. Et tout
yep,
département yo, s'il vous plaît, mettez annonce yo à 30 secondes, just like on TV.
yep,
30 seconds for this, 30 seconds for this, 30 seconds. Et puis après ça, fini, worship experience. And to be
yep,
very honest, you know, there are certain things you might want to keep, like the call to worship, you know, where they actually bring people to stand up and you say, oh, and stuff like that. But after that, it should be all about music. It should be all about breaking bread with the breaking this doing the sermon at this point, honestly and truly. And that's just me being completely and utterly removing the filter and saying, got to be all about the music and it got to be about the sermon between 11 and 12:30. Nothing else. Maybe a segment to collect tithe, but even then, you don't really need the segment if you got that loyalty and everybody knows, hey, yo, this is my church, Cash App, Zelle, or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So that's the way I feel. I would just start shaving stuff.
Okay. Daniel.
Um, Now, are we including Sabbath school too, or this is just
uh-oh.
because
Ah,
we
ah,
we play for Sabbath school too?
Oh, Ket, oubliez ça.
Yeah,
Allez.
that's true.
So,
okay. Okay.
and then that by itself just explodes things to the next level. There's are we supposed to stick around? Can we go to our class? Can we use the bath? It's so much things when it comes to Sabbath school. Which, by the way, attendance has decreased to maybe like 10%. Sabbath school is almost non-existing. I asked
Yep,
for a questionnaire the other day. They said a questionnaire. We don't even give questionnaire no more. They were like, everything is online now.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
And I like having my questionnaire, the paperback, but the church don't even provide that anymore. Meaning they're kind of moved on from that and focusing more on I guess the service, which has a pro and con to it also.
Mhm.
I would remove a lot of the talking. A lot of the talking is not necessary. We don't need 9 people sitting backstage. We don't need.
Go ahead,
Uh-oh.
say it. Où met
Uh-oh.
go
parler?
ahead.
No,
Où met
Reed,
parler?
I'm gonna ask Reed. I'm gonna ask you. Kids Corner.
Oh, you want to cut a kid's corner?
You guys are stepping into it.
Now, so in all fairness, I would still say yes. It would be something that I would cut or give it its own segment prior to the actual 11 o'clock service. I don't think it's something that needs to be a part of the 11 o'clock service, in my humblest opinion, especially if we're keeping in line with my idea of doing everything in 12 in an hour and a half. Honestly and truly, I like I said, segment. Like legit, I would definitely segment it, and that's just yeah. I would cut it. Sorry, Daniel. I'm with you on that one.
We
I
have,
would.
I'll tell you this, right? I'm at EB now. My nieces and nephew from Jersey were here a few weeks ago, and they saw the lady who does Kids Corner because they watch Atlanta Kids Corner in Jersey all the time. They saw her in person. They were like, oh, like a celebrity. So I was like, these kids actually are paying attention to their Kids Corner from wherever they are on the planet. So should we get rid of it? Like, because we don't stream Cyber School for the kids, at least. We don't. So the kids that are home, what's there for them?
All right.
But so talking the 50 people on the stage, I think that's pretty much it, to be honest.
What's the commentary looking like on YouTube and Facebook, Michael? Honestly and truly, like we're talking, we're having a blast. I'm like, what are the people saying to us right now? Like,
you know what? I see a lot of smiley faces. I see a lot of. I'm gonna show one of them. They look like when you said, "No, let the children come to me. Let them." You know. People, when you said no children's corner, this is what I've been seeing, man. Daniel, you messing up the stream.
No, that's part of the service.
No, but you know that's what I've been seeing. So if you want to know what's been going on, but let's go Jivy to see what Jivy, what do you think? What if you had the ability to modify the worship service from the lens of a musician, what would you change?
So I just remember, Daniel, I'm from a small church. You guys may not realize Shekinah is small. It's an up and coming church. And so they've actually allowed me to make those changes. And we did exactly what Reeve is saying. Just segment things out. Because what I realized from playing at different Sunday churches, I realized that we had École Sabbath and then we had like Recreation. And then, right? And then everybody comes back for the worship service. And so we're like, no, that's a problem. It really feels like it. Like it's like when you're ready to start, divine service, you gotta go look for people. Like, hey guys, it's back home. Let's go. And so like that's a problem, and that's a lot of time in between. How can we make it one service? It's by segmenting stuff out. It's like by the time École Sabbath is wrapping up, the little bulletin, and if you guys don't know, they have like the conference, general conference have the bulletin videos posted on the website. 2-3 minutes, you play that, and that's transition into your announcement or your praise and worship. And I'm big on, by the time the video is wrapping up, the praise and worship team should be ready to go, and then you do call to worship, you transition into your song, and by the time you're wrapping up your last song, the preacher should be ready to go, right? And so it makes it one service where you don't have breaks and people talking in between and saying stuff that they shouldn't even be saying in the first place, honestly. So yeah, make it one service instead of you have École Sabbath and then you have that little break, and then you go into your praise and worship, and then another break, and then divine service. Really just cut all of that off, make it one service where it's just when you come in, your attention, you get connected to what's going on, and makes it so much easier. So
okay, well I think based on what I'm noticing is that a lot of those changes that you guys recommended are not major changes, right? They're not major changes. They're very simple, but the thing is, where the issue lies is majority of the administration of our churches, if they don't do church like it's 1985, what they're accustomed to, they feel as though it's not church service.
Yeah.
It's like nobody agrees. Like I remember this pastor said one time, we was at a convocation, and then so we was like, you know what, we're not gonna put no chairs on the stage. We're not gonna do any of that. We're not gonna put no chairs. Nobody can have to sit on the stage. The guy opened. He said, "Eh bien, pas l'église aujourd'hui, pas l'église, pas l'église, pas l'église." You know, and that was it. That was what he said. And you know, some people again they feel as though if they don't go through call to worship, doxology, bienvenue. And see, I'm reciting. I literally know the cult program from every church. Any church Saturday I could go. You tell me where they're at, I can tell you what's next, right?
Yeah.
We get invocation, we get doxology. Yeah, I mean that's everybody comes in.
Yeah.
Right.
Pastoral.
Oh, no, that changes a lot. Then you have it goes from bienvenue. After bienvenue,
chant d'ouverture,
et lecture de la Bible, prière
pastorale, yeah.
Dîme,
yeah. Chant spécial.
Le moment de louange, ou bien non, quelle autre l'église qui fait louange dans mon service là? Chant spécial, sermon, remerciement, chant final
et bénédiction.
Et puis réponse.
Amen. You know, and
et puis annonce encore. Pas oublier annonce encore.
Yeah. That's a lot of steps when you think about it, man.
That is a lot, and I think because they're so accustomed to doing it every Saturday that they don't see that as an issue, and you lose so many people. Like if you cut out, like the good thing is during the pandemic, right? And again, that goes back to some of the questions, some of the things benefits, because I'm more now, you know, on the media side, and we had to tell them, like, you know, before, you know, they had a lot of times that they only give church service for like an hour and a half, and we had to throw a bunch of stuff out that we didn't need. But church ended at like 12:15, 12:30. But then when they opened the church up again, everything started coming back. The chairs came back on the stage. The mini pastoral was even longer. The interruptions for the service, it's like it was just ridiculous, man. So you know, I don't want to get too in depth about stuff. All right, so let me go to my next question.
Hold up,
yes.
Hold up. I think this is a question that we do need to kind of think about. So I'm gonna make it personal to Salem, right?
Oh wow.
No, it's not a bad question. It's
okay.
Is there more people watching online than who show up in person, or how is it?
It's very hard to distinguish, because again, for just someone tuning into the channel, that counts as a view, right? So you can't really gauge, you know, if you go by views, then the views are much higher than the individuals that are in the church service, right? So let's say for last week we had a special Women's Day. We were at 700 views, right? But the church had about, I would say, close to 200 people there, right? Had close to 200 people there. But, you know, can you say, you know, someone would say, oh, there's more people at church, but the views, you know, depending on how long the person stayed on the channel, you can't really gauge that. But what I'm noticing is that certain times where it spiked, like when we first start service or when we heading towards like praise and worship, on YouTube, our church, our YouTube spikes, right? And after louange, it goes back down. So, but within that, because between that spike, it all counts towards the YouTube channel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, and when you're in church now, and you guys made a good point where you get to a point where it's like, it's good watching it online, but when you're in the church and you feel like the warmth, you feel the bass, you feel the drums, it's a whole different feeling, you know. So I think the experience, and a lot of people now, I know a lot of us are tired of virtual worship. You know, a lot of people actually would rather be in the sanctuary.
Bro,
But
can I ask you
again,
real quick?
mhm,
And that's more of a testimony. Like, I want people to understand that what we're talking about, like especially for like small churches, it makes it easier. Because when you go to the order of service, I'm like, yo, that's a lot of points. And usually
mhm,
there's someone for like, that's a line of like 10, 15 people to serve that day. When
right,
you condense that service, especially for a small church, then you are able to manage your resources a lot better. Because now I only need like 3 to 4 people for that Sabbath service. So if I only have like 10 able body, then I'm able to rotate these people a lot better
mhm,
than if I have like 15 points that I need to get through. That's half of the church.
right,
And
right.
now, people get burned over time, right? So understand like what we're talking about. Trust me, like it makes it so much better. Service is short and sweet, and people are not burned through like having to do this like week in and week out. It's just make it so much better, man.
Yeah, I mean, it does. But the thing is, too, I feel as though, and again, I'm just saying that I feel as though sometimes it also go back to the lack of preparation, right? The
Mm-hmm.
lack, a lot of times our churches, they don't think about the worship service until Sabbath morning.
Mm.
Uh, that
They
kills
don't
me.
think about we finished service today. Woo, we got through service. Instead
Yep.
of them saying let's prepare during the week to make sure service runs efficiently on Saturday. Next time de penser de culte là, c'est samedi matin on va le monter pour faire culte là. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times when you go through those different points, you could condense it into 3-4 people. But again, by you condensing it, they're gonna say this person's upset because you told them to do this and that, and they showed up and they didn't do it. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Yeah, Whitney.
I think it's important also. I mean, you just ring a bell in my head. It's a conversation and it's a transition of culture as well when you start doing
Mhm.
these things. And unfortunately, people's emotions take the last of the priorities when it comes to this. And there was a time where, oh yeah, no papa's who inside pa feels this, that, and the third and whatnot. But I mean, if there's a time where it's important for perfection to at least be the closest goal reached when it comes to these things, it's now. And so unfortunately, if what's her face was doing how do you say chant spécial all the time, now réaliser, well, what's her face can't be doing chant spécial no more on the live stream because she was not live stream material. She was no camera material. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so unfortunately,
Yeah.
plafond ça pas poli. But these are the realities we also have to be able to translate to these individuals, and everybody has to come to terms with that. Like, look, we have now crossed into a different realm, and there's going to be a certain standard that needs to be met, and that needs to be met across the board. And unfortunately, how do you say? And the Sunday churches do it like this as well. Before they let anybody go anywhere near being in front of the camera, they go through these things called classes, where every week you sit down, and then every week you sit down and you learn about the culture of the church, you learn about the this of the church, and you learn that. And then by the fourth time you sit down in these classes, it's the you take the spiritual gifts test, and pretty much this is how they filter out whether or not you're qualified to be on a what's his face. And so you take this test, and the test says, okay, cool, your gift is hospitality. Your gift is this, and your depuis non pas monter sur musique ou pas chanter nothing on the camera. You are part of the congregation singing, and that's it. And that's pretty much what it is. And there are people that are better shepherds, so they say, okay, cool. Our Bible study ministry, our young ministry needs help here. You are best fit here. Go here, and that's how they discipline all these emotions out of it. Honestly and truly, yeah. You want to aspire to be a singer or an American Idol, this is not the place. It's no longer the place anymore. So yeah.
And throughout morning, the thing is to a lot of us too, man. They people lead with their emotions because you tell them you
Hmm.
can't do something, they feel as though you disrespected them. if the Bible where you or one.
Michael, look, all
Uh-oh.
musicians are sensitive. It's natural. Let someone say any little thing about your craft. Even someone who's an artist who likes to draw, let someone say something negative. They take it to the heart. That's naturally, no matter how much of a thug you think you are, but you're a musician, you're sensitive on the inside, 100%. So the moment these, again, back to the standard, she usually sings, the church likes her. Now we got lights, camera, and action, and sing no more. Yo, you might lose a soul.
Right.
Again, we've all been in situations where we've seen a nasty way of handling things, and we're just like, that person literally, you just broke them on the inside. I've seen someone literally in the middle of praise and worship go up to one of the musicians, tap them on the shoulder. The person wrapped up their guitar and walked out.
Wow.
You think that person never came back with their guitar? Never again. And I'm like, there's a certain way, but again, we got standards now.
Yeah, but going, and you just brought up good questions. We always hear that, whatever you're doing for God, make sure you give it your best. So is it wrong for me to tell someone that, hey, the song that you wrote wasn't your best? Unfortunately, we won't be able to let you sing anymore. Is that something fair? If we let's say if we take the worship service as our gift to God, right? Wouldn't we want the best of the best to take part in it?
You know what that is, though? That's a lack of preparation. That should have been caught before Saturday morning. Because then that's too late.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is right. That is way too late.
Your standards, GV, your standards.
I want to go to. I want to go to.
Bro,
I want to.
No.
GV search, bro.
And you know what's
You
funny?
give me
That
my
is,
MD,
bro. I'm glad you guys are saying that, because you know why? I'm the only musician at my church. I'm playing the keys. I'm mixing.
Wow.
I'm watching over the exactly. So should not be doing that. But this is why I love preparation. You know how we are able to filter out to those with minimal mistakes is by, hey, pastor, hey, sister, before we go on stage tomorrow, let's get together Friday night. Let's just go over that. So Saturday morning, we've already spoke about that yesterday, so we are on the same page. So trust me, guys, I'm not coming from all the way up here. I'm from a small little church. When Michael said Salem at 200 people, I'm like, wow, a good day for us is 60. And that's half of the DFW at the church.
Wow.
Okay? So trust me, it can be done, and trust me, it makes it so much easier when you are, and it really just like, hey, Rivdi, why do you need on the projector? Hey man, I'm doing this song, but am I going to that other song? Just be prepared for it. Just a quick conversation, right? And so to me, brother Jim is not so good at the guitar. So brother Jim, why don't we go over that song Friday night? You may not be able to play it, so well, but if I can get you to play 2-3 chords and be able to at least, pass by, that's a lot better than it's Saturday morning in the middle of, service. Brother Jim is going off, but he's just like, exactly, just completely killing it. Y'all, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And so it's like, yo, Brother Jim, for the love of God, please stop playing, right? But then it's too late. And that's why it boils down to what, Rivni, you brought that up earlier. I think each church should have 1 or 2 people that they invest that are qualified to handle all of that. Someone that can look at the camera, the sound, the band, what's going on stage, and be able to manage all of that together. Because they'll be able to call out and like, hey, MG, take care of this. take care of that and be able to delegate and take care of all of these moving pieces. Because trust me, on Saturday morning, it's too late now. Anything you say to anybody, it's gonna be personal.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Wow. So with again, I don't want to open another can of worms, but I'm going to go to the last question that we have, and that goes back to everything is tied in together today. The last question is: what advice would you give to the music ministry leaders and musicians in our Haitian churches?
Don't be afraid to set a standard and meet it, and to stand by it. I think there's a strength in the position of leadership that we need to definitely exercise, and actually let everybody know, hey, this is my position to lead. Now I'm going to no community haïtien, le gens qui carrément come off a certain type of way. You don't want. I'm not saying assert your leadership in a sense like that. I'm saying, hey, if you realize something is not going to work or it is not working, don't be afraid to make the hard decision to meet the standard, and that's just tying into what it is we were talking about before. If somebody's just not meeting it or they're not practicing enough to go ahead, then hey, we in IT we call repurposing. If something's falling behind, we don't necessarily throw them away. We repurpose it to go somewhere else for the time being. And then if for some reason we find a technology that allows it to come back in, then we do that. And I think that's exactly what you gotta be able to make that decision when it comes to the personnel that are participating in your music ministries. C'est pas tout le monde qui musicien, c'est pas tout le monde qui pianiste, c'est pas tout le monde qui drummer. And while this person may have picked up that gift 2 weeks ago, if they're not showing the strides to be able to get up there, and you don't necessarily have a drummer for that Saturday, make the hard decision to say, hey, we're going to stick to just a piano service this Saturday. Putting that drummer may not be the best decision just because you're absent one. You get what I'm saying? And that's the good thing about music. It's so eclectic. You can go in so many different directions. You just got to open your minds to be able to, drive in on that creativity. So I would just don't be afraid to make the hard decisions. That's the best one of my advice I would give.
GV?
Well, my advice would be to just invest in resources, and I think we've at several points touch on different resources. Invest on your people, invest in the church, and obviously invest in equipments and all of that, because what we have right now with the pandemic, this is not going away. This is gonna become more of the requirement. And I know I can be tough on some of my churches out there. Whenever I'm doing consulting, I would legit tell them, like, you guys are not ready. Please don't do it. Don't live stream. Don't do any of that stuff. And the reason why, trust me, there is beauty and there's a certain calmness in having discipline, having things streamlined. Because trust me, man, like, you can have everything lined up. If the mix is not right, it becomes an issue. And you guys are musicians. You guys know when you walk in a church service and something is not what it's supposed to you, it takes out so much more that you would rather like it not existing at all. Like, Daniel, you're a musician, you're a drummer, bro. Please be honest with me. How much does it bother you when you have a drummer that cannot keep time?
The Lord is my shepherd.
Right? It's like the worst thing ever, bro. Like, because it's like it's beating in your head, like, yo, this dude is not on time. Like, so that's right. So that's it. Like, for churches out there, musicians, like, invest in your craft. Like, maybe it's time I go take a class on sound designing, so I can be better aware of how are we sounding as a band. Maybe it's time I go take a class in AV side of things. Maybe it's time I go take a class in public speaking, right? So I think right about now, for Asian churches in general, it's time that we invest in resources, invest in people. Trust me, the cameras, you can buy them later. If you don't have the people that can use them, if you don't have the people that can use this instrument, man, you're gonna be spending $50,000 every year and still can't meet that level, because you don't have people that are qualified to be able to make those decisions and really create the vision for your church to move forward.
Hmm. All right, Daniel.
Uh, I was taking notes over here.
Okay, okay.
um, for MD, what I don't want to repeat what they said because what GV and Remy said are definitely key points. I want to add MDs should become great managers
Yep.
because you're not worried about just your instruments. And I've seen drummers as MD. I've seen flute players as the MD. Like it could be anyone, but it's the person who's the best at managing the entire band.
Yeah.
Uh, Something else is build relationship with your band members.
Mm,
Really
mm.
do. There's a it's That's one of the things I try to teach those that are coming up behind me. Like, know what's going on in your band members' life. Like, are they doing finals this week? Are they arguing a lot with their wives? Or simple things really goes a long way. Is he struggling to pay his phone bill? It could be the smallest thing, and you giving them that phone call builds that relationship to the point that they're ride or die for you, man. Honestly, and Michael's seen it. I worked with Mike for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And the reason why Michael called me last minute, and then someone comes to me because I built these relationships so that I give them a call. They're like, yo, Daniel, you've been looking out for me. You know what's going on in my life. We have that relationship. So they come and it's a give and take thing. Learn how to talk effectively. Like I say, we're all sensitive. You could just like the lady tapped that guy on the shoulder. No, don't do that. Know how to communicate effectively. Uh, know the best time and the best place to do so. Because I've been in places where it's better to let them finish the song than for you to tap them on the shoulder in the middle of the song, and then you end up making it a bigger deal. So these things are key factors. Musicianship 101, man. Honestly, honestly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Now, we had a few questions I noticed a few questions from the chat. So we're gonna go with like 2 or 3 questions, and then we hear your viewpoints on there. Let's see. We have our brother Ronnie Desarm. He said, "Who determines the necessary resources for the church?" That's a question. Who determines the necessary resources for the
Yeah.
church?
That's my favorite question. That's a favorite question of mine, because and the reason why I'm smiling at this, because that's one thing I've identified, that a lot of churches, they don't have that person that is qualified. Because understand what we're talking about, right? We're talking about someone that knows enough about audio production and processing, um, lighting,
Hmm.
video. Those are two different things, by the way, my people.
Two different things.
Things, right? Video production, music, and just presentation overall. And so, to answer that question, most churches probably don't have that person right now. That person is probably gonna be someone that, because just a couple years ago you didn't need that, right? And so yeah, you're gonna need that person. Otherwise, man, you can I've seen churches with $200,000 budget. They can put on the production, and then Michael, you've watched my church production. It's a small church, bro. Most of the time we've got about like 10 to 15 people in attendance. So
Wow.
sometimes it's not about the big budget, it's just having someone that
People.
is trained and understand, okay, this is what we need in order to provide this. So
So definitely. And Rivni?
It can't be a comité d'église. It can't be the coancina.
Absolutely.
It cannot. I'm so sorry. Remember, even the pastor, it cannot be that person. It
Yep.
has to be. Sorry, Mike. Mike's face is just killed me.
Listen, man, I'm already in the hot seats, man. I don't want to put no more.
You're going down today.
Nah, honestly, truly, they attach a subcommittee with a whole bunch of professionals that know somewhat of each branch, and I think in moving forward, yeah, those committees can definitely still be in play. But when it comes to the service as it is right now, you got to have a dedicated group of individuals that are meeting to make sure that perfection is there. And so, who determines the resources? It has to be the professionals that actually know it. And then, if you don't have a professional, there's a lot of benefits in consulting. I mean, GV mentioned that he does consulting. These people are out here that are very now known in what they're doing. Call them in, sit down with them, have a planning committee to figure out how it is you want to move. And that way, and then when they give you the plan, s'il vous plaît, pas démonter, make it cheaper. No. If they've determined this is what works, attach to it, commit to it, and move it, and then try to stick to what it is they're doing, because that's the best way to determine what resources are going to move forward. You got to go through the professionals. So if you don't have them inward, go seek them out outward. You know, don't ignore the fact that you need a professional for what it is that you're doing right now. Go find them.
So ça veut dire pas venir prendre compte là pour ça y a sur Amazon, y a checker tout équipement sur Amazon. Sorry.
My guy.
You guys, I'm not gonna.
Don't speak on that. Don't speak on that. Don't speak on that, guys. Don't speak on that. Okay. All right. Another question. It says music brings us closer to God and can strengthen our faith. My question is, how can you make worship enjoyable for the youth to help them come back to church?
Music is not the problem. I'm sorry, music is not the problem. I understand that we can do our best to try and deliver on the music, but I really do believe that the young people, they're in search of something more than music can just offer. And so music is so eclectic as well. You can go down one route and entertain one person, another person may not feel it, you know. And it's just one of those the hazards of being in praise and worship and being in the music industry. But what we need to do is, you know, if you really want to, if that is your goal, then you definitely need to start surveying that age group that you have left. And if they're not there anymore, then, you know, go seek them out and say, hey, we are desperately in need to understand what it is that we have done to make it not appeasing to you to return on a weekly basis to our church. And then listen to them, you know, and actually take notes and try to implement what's necessary to actually bring it forward. But as far as music bringing, I agree with you, Selima, that it definitely does bring us closer to God. But unfortunately, what's plaguing our youth nowadays isn't the presence of music, because this plaguing is not just happening in churches that don't have great music. It's happening in the churches that have great music as well. So we gotta definitely get to the root of the issue, and music just isn't it. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else want to elaborate on that? Or
yeah, we could make worship more enjoyable. We can, by changing the style of music, by I guess hiring, or whatever you want to call it, musicians that are better, by making praise and worship a little longer. These small little things can affect and make things more, like she said, enjoyable. It can. The problem is deeper than that, but it can definitely make things more enjoyable.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for being part of this panel. I had a great time. You guys have some great points, and again, I want to stress that this is not about us coming on here to bash the church, but we're just, we want to be able to provide our input, because a lot of times we're not in comité. we're not sitting on these boards, but give it as a way for us to give our input and to show you how we see the church. It doesn't have to be our main church, but it's just our Haitian churches in general. And we want to use this platform to be a way of resource, or some type of resource where we could say, hey, you know what? I remember I heard this from the discussion. We need to get a consultant to come in here to manage this, or I heard how they said we should modify the service. We want to use this as a resource. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you gentlemen for coming out, taking time for your schedule. I don't know if anyone of you guys have any last word before we close. Any closing statements?
Yeah, I understand that I was a little bit candid today. This is just who I am on a regular basis, and so I'm always going to give you the truth as best as I can. At the end of the day, though, find God, find church, find some place that you can go and find healing, and invest in that church as well. Don't just sit there and be a spectator. Definitely offer up whatever gifts you may have available to actually better the experience that is at your local church. And they'll definitely they'll benefit from that a little bit more. So yeah, that's all I got.
I would say this is a message for church leaders. Do not underestimate the power of music. Not underestimate it, because we've seen it many times in the Bible where music is what saves soul. Music is what casts demons away. So let us never forget that there is power in music, and us as musicians, let us remember that there is power, and not to play around with it either. Honestly, we've seen foolishness done with music. We've seen good being done with music. We've seen healing done with music. There is power, so let's keep that in mind. It could be used for good and for bad. Let's just be careful.
GV?
Bro, my last word is actually to you. The work that you and your wife are doing is so important, and I like to look at ministries as special teams. And so for churches out there, don't feel offended by this conversation. If anything, look at the work being done by Renewed Ministries and like, okay, these people are literally like burning forth conversations that we can piggyback on and gain resources from. So you guys are doing a work that is so important. Keep going. I know the comments may not be flattering most of the times. We know how sensitive our church folks can be, but it is so important, man, because trust me, this is not being discussed at tableau on. So absolutely, you guys keep up the great work. It was such a privilege be amongst such talented people as well.
All right. Well, we do appreciate it when we receive it. Thank you so much. We're going to continue to do different type of programs that actually discuss discussions. We're going to discuss a lot of things that they don't, like you said, they don't normally discuss. And that's what we're here for. We want to be in that space where we don't want to just be talking about it. We want to be out there in the community. We want to be able to support the community, to assist the community as best as we can. And I thank you so much, guys. And by you being on this platform, that was a great support. And we really thoroughly enjoyed the show. Like I thought we was gonna be here for like an hour, but we hitting an hour 57 minutes. So just a little under 2 hours, and just to see that you guys the knowledge and the experience that you guys have, and I pray that God continue to watch over you guys, continue to bless your ministries wherever you go, continue to enlarge your ministries, continue to give you everything that your heart desires. All right. So with that being said, we're going to ask guests bow our heads and close our eyes for a quick word of prayer. Heavenly Father, just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for allowing the panelists to come together so that way we can discuss your church from the lenses of the musicians. Lord, we thank you for having Reevney, GV, and Daniel on. Lord, we ask that you continue shower them, Lord, and continue to enlarge their territory, that they whatever they touch becomes gold. We thank you for all you have done in our lives. Continue to be with us. Continue allow us to make sound decisions in our ministries. Continue to give us strength and courage so we could continue to put our best foot forward in our ministries, Lord. Thank you for all you have done. Continue to do your best, each and everyone that tuned in for this discussion, Lord. Thank you. Forgive us all our sins. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
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 All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And everyone have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Deuces, guys.